As you start hearing more and more and hearing people's theories, you don't know what to believe. For
Mm.
me, it's like, I want to know what happened. That's the whole reason why I spent 7 years looking into this case when I wasn't into true crime.
He's seen in this video that's released worldwide shortly after the crimes.
It's just another baby step of healing. Day to day, I try to just live my life and be me.
If people are missing and you care about them, here's a way to help.
Welcome everyone to Crime Conversations. I'm Susan Hendricks alongside my friends Turbo and Teddy. We all got to know each other at the Delphi murder trial. We'll go around and kind of introduce ourselves and tell us who we are, and then also give our take on what we heard inside the courtroom. And Teddy, I'm starting with you.
I first heard about the case in a really weird way, actually. I was sitting on my couch scrolling through Facebook, I think, and I came across one of those clickbaity articles where I had the picture of Bridge Guy, and it was talking about two young girls go missing and they're found dead the next day. And one of the girls took a video of the guy on her phone, and they have a picture and audio of this person, and they still don't know who it is. And then 2020, when all of us had all the time in the world to go online and do some sleuthing, that's kind of when it all fell into place. And I went down the rabbit hole, and from then it really kind of consumed a decent bit of my time. And I'm really happy that I was able to make it to the 2 weeks trial that I was at. But
And I had a quick
that's
question. Growing up, were you interested in this? Like, did you
no.
watch Dateline or was it just this particular case?
My grandfather used to fall asleep to Cold Case, and that would always freak me out. But I was never into it. It wasn't a hobby. It's run full circle, and it's been a very crazy experience. I definitely want to keep at it, but
Is that how you met Turbo?
oh yeah, it's how I met pretty much anybody in the true crime sphere was through
And that's my
Delphi.
segue into you, Turbo.
So for me, it was Sunday, February 17th, 2017, that I come on this case. And the reason why I did is because on July 13th, 2012, in Evansdale, Iowa, there were two girls that were abducted and murdered in very similar circumstances to me. Their case is still unsolved. Their bodies were recovered at Seven Bridges, just north of Evansdale, and they were recovered next to a creek, and they had been on their bicycles at the park and were abducted. And I worked cases there to try to help law enforcement and victims' families. So when this case happened, of course, the circumstances were so similar that I was just on it right from the beginning, basically, just right after it happened.
And I do want to say you are one of the smartest people I know in terms of knowing all the evidence of this case. And so when you say I've always been a sleuth, because for the book I wrote, I was able to interview Dana Thompson, who was part of Don't F with Cats.
Yeah, that was the Luca Magnotta case. But certainly when people say, like, what do you do? Like, what is it that you're doing? And I said, now I can say, watch
It's
that.
like Dana Thompson. Watch that on Netflix. Right. Turbo, I look at you as that, as someone in that field of really doing a deep dive. I'm sure, and I know it, that you guys have absolutely helped with the investigation, whether you want to admit that or not. But I digress. And I'm so glad that you were able to both go to the trial. Did you talk about that together before you went?
No.
We met there.
Yeah, I got a
what?
little handshake from her walking up the ramp. She didn't
Did
know
you
who I
know
was.
each
Nobody
other
knows who I am.
online or no?
No, I knew
No?
I knew who she was. Like I didn't get into the whole online community part of
Mhm.
this for like a year and a half before trial.
Mhm.
I didn't know that there was such a big online community, but then gave it a couple of months and I realized just how broad it was and some of the characters that were involved.
Obviously, there were no cameras in the courtroom, but if you haven't heard, Judge Gull really made it difficult for us to even get in unless you had the media pass and you were on this rotation.
The line on day one, you said to me, this is like Lord of the Flies. And I said, yes. And little did we know
Little did we
on
know.
day one how right you were about that, because it got worse and worse and worse. And Teddy and I left after the state rested.
It felt like the goalposts kept being moved. So we would figure out a way, okay, if we line up at this time, and then we can get in. But the positive side to this is you were able to meet friends. I was able to meet Teddy. I was able to see Turbo again. And so you were able to see people and talk about the case before even going in. But finally, the families got word of it somehow, maybe day 1, 2, or 3. And this is just, it shows you what wonderful people they are, is that Becky, Patty, and Tara and their side of the family started bringing everyone food. When they realized that we were waiting in line, that they thought, this is for Abby and Libby, it means that much to them to wait. And some people who were not that nice to the families, they didn't discriminate. They brought food for everyone. So I just wanted to point that out because I thought that was so telling
It was
of the people
unbelievable.
that they are, right?
Yeah.
It was just unbelievable because like the last thing that they needed to worry about was us in the line.
Coming in, did you have a sense of what you believed, if it was Richard Allen, or what your thoughts were coming in, Teddy?
For me, it was hard because, like I said, I really didn't get into the whole online sphere of it for probably until the beginning of 2023. I just kind of stayed away. And then as you start hearing more and more and hearing people's theories, you don't know what to believe. For me, it's like, I want to know what happened. That's the whole reason why I spent 7 years looking into this case when I wasn't into true crime. So I went into it knowing they didn't arrest this guy for no reason. We didn't know a lot about him, and we didn't know a lot about the case. But as long as they answer a couple key questions that I have based on the evidence that is out there, it'll probably fall into place. And it did.
Well,
Yeah.
I knew that you were wise beyond your years when I think I was on with Gray Hughes. I'm like, Teddy, come on, do a live. You're like, I don't really want to be on live. I'm like, you're
Oh,
live.
yeah, 3 a.m. Yeah.
Teddy.
Oh, hey, what's
Right.
going on?
Hey, came out of my car because I was sleeping in my car, and I came up to the line, and I saw Susan with her phone. I thought she was talking to somebody, like FaceTime or something. She's on a live with Gray Hughes. I was like, oh God, how's it going? I just woke up.
I'm like, Freddie, you're on. Freddie, Teddy. Yeah.
No.
Hey, Freddie.
Yeah.
Gray Hughes.
No, it was about one of the frames of the security cameras. He was asking about it, and everybody was giving him different answers. And I'm like, no, I saw it. This is what I saw.
Thanks for the information.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hello. That was a great interview.
Hello. Yeah, that was all interesting stuff.
So today we all have pages and pages of notes, and some of them I can read, some of them I can't. But today we're going to talk about what was pivotal to me, and I think to you guys as well. Kathy Schenck found this file and comes across Richard Allen Whiteman instead of Richard Allen, and Whiteman was the street he lived on, and found the file. And she was in court every single day, a volunteer, born and raised in Delphi. Just the sweetest woman you could ever meet. And I believe the hero of this case. So
Kathy Schenck was at every hearing that they ever had in the well with law enforcement and the state every single time. In Fort Wayne, she was there. Like she was a legend. But I just wanted to say that the handwritten tips are what that were taken prior to her coming on, I believe it was March 1st, around the 1st of March.
Yeah.
Those are what she was going through, and found specifically it stuck out to her because it was handwritten.
law enforcement, and you touched on this, Teddy, that they weren't saying much. So you weren't getting many details. When you saw it in person, you heard more, but they weren't saying much. Even then, Nick McClelland stood up and said, today, I know you think you're going to get answers. And I'm like, oh no.
I know everybody, not only reporters, but the family, everybody wants to know more information. I understand it's frustrating, but my goal is to maintain the integrity of this case.
I can't even say enough amazing things about how much he tried this case, how much he poured himself into it. And you could tell nothing slid by him. It could be attested to from the family members. Tara would tell me he's all into this. I mean, this was his waking, breathing moment, and it showed. Did you guys feel the
It
same?
absolutely showed his presence and his commanding nature in the courtroom. He was confident without being in your face. He
Yeah.
knows it everything inside out. He's living it every day, all day and night, on his days off. He's been through the ringer. They've all been through the ringer. Like you're just not going to trip these guys up. They've been through hell. James Luttrell and Stacey Diener. I mean, they complimented. They took. I suspected that Luttrell was going to take the more technical type of witnesses, which he did. He did end up. It made sense. I mean, I believe he come out of retirement to help out with this case, and Stacey Diener took a lot of the family and the witnesses that had seen Alan, and like they were just a well-oiled machine. Yeah.
Luttrell definitely. I liked the first couple of witnesses that I saw him do the direct on. They were the people that would have to get up at the screen and go through picture after picture after picture and point out the minute details. And he had such a good way of directing them with questions, but then backing off. I thought Diener was really good. I noticed her on a lot of the female witnesses, or a lot of the people that they seemed a little uncomfortable. She would come in, she had a lot of grace, and she would ask questions in a very direct fashion, but
Yeah.
she also, I want to say bedside manner, even though she doesn't work at a
Class. They had
hospital.
class. Mhm.
Yeah. But then if it came to a point of contention between the state and the defense, she was able to turn it around and ask the hard-hitting questions, and she
Yeah.
got right to the point. And I thought it was great with all of them how they had their own strengths.
Another brilliant move before we get to the interviews was McClellan tried to get in pictures of Bridge Guy, which I thought was key. Richard Allen, because there was no cameras in the courtroom, he's shriveling as the days go on. He lost weight. He looks nothing like the person on the bridge. McClellan just got shot down trying to bring these photos in. They're not in because Rosie said, Your Honor, they have no timestamp. It could be from whenever. We're not allowing it. Okay. Well, with the daughter on the stand, and I felt so bad for her, and there was a sidebar, and I wonder if that was strategic. If it was genius on the state's part because it gave the jury time to just look at her. And she's sitting there like this, and she's not looking at her father. She glanced maybe once and then looked away, had tears in her eyes, looking like she'd rather be anywhere but there, like anyone would, but
Yeah.
kept looking at Richard Allen's sister. I could tell that they had a relationship. The mother was not in court. She was there every single day, Kathy Allen, but the day her daughter is on the stand, which said to me, they don't get along and she does not like her father. How do I know this? She didn't look at him. If you love your father, you glance and you smile and say, I'm here for you. Don't think the jurors aren't keen to that. And there was several sidebars while she was up there. I digress. So it goes back. It's the trail and it's cross-examination. And he says, he has the photos of Richard. He says, is this your dad? Yes. Is this your dad? Yes. Is this your dad? Yes. Is this your dad? Yeah. All of the pictures in. They're all in. State exhibit this, state exhibit that. They're in.
Awesome.
The Bridge Guy photos?
Yes, they got them in
Really?
with
I didn't know that.
cross-examination. Yeah.
Damn. So she
Is
called
this
her own
your
father
father?
out as Bridge Guy.
But basically saying, hey, is this your dad? Yes, it is. Is this your dad? Yes, it is. They didn't even have to say what year, what they were trying to do, what was necessary. If you're watching us now, you know the case, you know what Rich Guy looks like. You know what Richard Allen looks like 2017, 2018. They don't. They
Yeah.
don't. They see the guy with the linen shirt and the reading glasses with a
Yeah.
puppy face.
Yeah.
With a puppy face, which
So
was
true.
nauseating.
Well, I will say that with the photo, and as far as even before we had seen these interviews, you hear the person's voice. I never used the photo and the voice as anything in particular because all the different people that have been suspects in this case, you can see where your bias starts when you get a suspect and you try to put them in that image. I had never heard Richard Allen speak
Me
in a
either.
conversational tone. And the good part about these two interviews, number one, is the quality of the audio is different. And in that first interview, the 13th, that was the most significant to me because you got to see him before he knew that they were really onto him.
Look, I want to preface this by saying the three of us have no skin in the game of who this guy is. Why would we want it to be Richard Allen? We don't care. If he was innocent, I would want him to be innocent. And I'm not
Yeah.
one to throw away the key without evidence. But when I went in with an open mind. When I heard his voice in that room with Liggett, I thought, this is it. This is the guy. Before he knew he was in trouble. Teddy, what'd you think?
I was just kind of blown away that we were actually seeing this
Me too.
interview. I mean, we've gotten little snippets of it from defense filings and some of the things that were said, but you're always like, what could he have possibly said that allowed him to get out of that 13th interview and on to the October 26th interview? But I loved when they first walked in and they read him his Miranda rights. They're like, door's unlocked. You're free to go at any time. And he just goes to get up and then he laughs about it and sits back down. I was like, okay, he really has no idea what they're calling him in for.
Or maybe he thinks, maybe he thinks he's gotten away with it for this long. It had been in 2022 for almost 6 years. He's like, I got these guys.
Yeah.
Exactly. Once they got to his job history and how he transferred from Peru to Delphi at CVS and how he liked his job as a manager, and that's when they started to get more narrow and go to the 13th. They were like, obviously, that we've been looking into this case for longer than we hoped for. We're just trying to re-interview people that we know were there. And, just tell us what you were doing, where you were on the trail, all the good, happy stuff that you would with anybody. He goes about it the same way that we heard in the Walla confessions, spent the morning with my mom. They went out to lunch, but it was a nice day. So he went home, got his jacket, and went to the trails. And this was kind of poignant for all the conspiracy nutbags out there. He said that the family would always go to the trails, but it wasn't a ritual. So you heard it right from the mouth of Richard Allen. No rituals at the trails. And then they're asking him where he parked and how he got there. And he was going out of his way to show them, literally any way that you could get to the trails. He goes, oh, maybe I went over here and then down this road.
Yeah.
Or sometimes, I'd go here and they're like, well, where'd you park? And he points out the CPS building on the map right away. They're like, well, how do you think you got to that building that day? He goes, oh, the loop that goes around. If you know what building you parked at, I'm sure you know which way you were coming from. If you know what clothes you were wearing, I'm sure you know what way you were coming from. You can't have all this other stuff that you have down pat ready to spill, and then the direction that you got there is off the table. That doesn't really make any sense to me.
I wrote down in my notes, sounds just like the recording. I didn't think it would be so
Obvious.
Yes. Was
it?
Yes.
Unreal.
You really have to do.
That I didn't hear till the confessions to Kathy and Janice. I didn't get to see these two videos that you guys did.
Yeah, the one on the 26th, to me, the audio was a lot clearer, and his voice sounded a little bit higher in that. And I thought maybe either he was trying to change the way he sounded a little bit because he knew that they were onto him at that point.
No, they knew it, because I didn't realize at the time, Teddy, that after that, the 13th interview, right, where he's like, checking the stocks and I'm going to get up and sit down again. No, that he didn't have control anymore.
Before that, what I thought was poignant was he explained how he told Kathy that he went to the trails that day. He said that he went to the trails and that she told him to go talk to the police. He didn't call in. He went to the sheriff's office and left his number with them, and then Doolin called. Before they walked out of the room the first time, he told them that he was approaching 3 girls. His head was down, but he was approaching 3 girls. So everybody has this big holdup with the 3 or the 4 girls. We had Rayleigh Voorhees get on and say how she picked up her 2 sisters on the way to the trail, and then Bree Wilbur came with them. So there were 4 girls. One of them was a lot smaller than the rest from what we heard.
And he said it looked like someone was babysitting. So
right. He said the one that was taller looked like the babysitter.
And he said, and they look like sisters. So he was To me, he was keyed in. He was looking at these
Right.
girls like, could they be my targets? That's what that said to me.
He was
Yeah,
looking down
agreed.
at his feet, but he also was keeping an eye on the people that were around him because he knew he was going to the trails that day to do something. He matched up exactly the people that said they saw Bridge Guy that day go past them at the entrance to the trails. So that for me locked in that he is that person that they saw.
He's
So
Bridge
that
Guy.
starts the timeline right there. After his car goes by, there's no denying. Like those are the 4 girls that were there that saw him. He only saw 3 girls, and there's a logical explanation for that. It's not that there were 2 groups. It's just he had his
And
head down.
I do want to point out he did repeatedly, when it turned, say this: I had nothing to do with this. And then this was with Steve Mullen in my notes. It said, I don't want to be any more involved in this than I have to be. Well, you are.
Yeah.
Mullen and Liggett step out, and he's holding his phone. So I'm writing this in my notes. So he now realizes, okay, this is.
What did he look like when he was in there by himself?
But he knew.
He was
He
looking
knew.
down on his phone. He was looking down
He
and
watches Dateline
he
and
was
he's like this, calm, calm, calm. It says they pull closer to him in the chair. It says, we've talked to your wife and daughter. And that's when it turned.
yeah. To me, they came in the room and they're like, well, to be honest with you, we've already talked to your wife and your daughter, and that he got pissed.
And this is
He
what they
goes,
said. Go on.
so he goes, oh, so you guys just sat me down here and lied to me the whole time, trying to be all buddy buddy, and you already went out and talked to all these people. And they're like, well, that's when they started bringing out the pictures of his car and everything else and laying out in front of him, and he's just getting more and more heated.
Was
And
he?
I'm like, dude, yeah, he was starting to get pissed off.
This is key for me. It says they have the picture from Libby's phone, a screenshot of the video, and they say, and they put it down and they say, as you well know, we have a picture of the guy on the bridge with the blue jeans and the jacket and the hat. This was taken by one of the girls. Then he says, if it was taken by one of the girls' phones, it's not me. I've never met these girls. I've never seen them. Liggett said, this is the clothing that you just told us you were wearing. And he said, well, a lot of people wear that.
And you said you were there. No one else that was there said they were wearing that.
And he said, you went and talked to my wife and daughter. If that was taken by the girl's phone, it's not me. And they raised their voice a little. You were there. I'm going to admit to something that I didn't do. Now you've pissed me off. Arrest me or leave. And he goes, and he walks out and he said, thank you. And he said, thank you. You're and it got a laugh.
It was almost like he was gonna let them look at his phone. He was right there, and I could
He's
see
never
the
going to.
gears. Yeah, I could see the gears turning in his head. He's like, this obviously isn't the phone that I had in 2017, but he goes, I don't want you guys to see like my search history or anything. Like that's a normal person that would go in and talk to the police that has nothing to do with anything. People would get weirded out. Like I would probably get weirded out by that, because if you're
I think
in the
everyone
hot seat,
would.
yeah, if you're in the hot seat for something and you think that they're pointing the finger at you, they'll take anything off your phone and use it. But it's only
No.
one little, that's only
You
one
didn't-
little observation out of all of that I can actually agree with.
Really?
But
Yeah,
I mean, because I would be one of those people. If I know that they're coming on to me and they think I'm the person, who
I'd
knows what
want
the
a
hell you
lawyer.
look up.
No, we
Right.
want a lawyer. Turbo.
But I will say this though. He did say a couple of times in that interview, nope, I'm done. You guys have pissed me off. I'm done. Like he wasn't going to talk. And then he just keeps on talking. That blew me away. I go, dude, shut up.
Now
Yeah.
we're going to the Holman interview, which he said to me during the break, you're not going to like me too much. I kind of yell here. I said,
I thought it was brilliant.
so did I.
I can't
So-
wait to see it. I'm like dying to see it.
The whole world wants to see it.
This was after they searched his home, which was that day on the 13th afterwards. So what was your thought when you first saw the Holman one, Teddy?
Well, it was a smaller room,
Mhm.
as interrogation rooms usually are. The one thing that we did forget though, because Holman did talk about the search of the house, and I've heard a couple people misquote what he said in the car as they were looking through all of his stuff. Holman was telling him, "Hey, if we mess something up, there's some
Oh,
forms you can fill out,
yeah.
and we'll come in and fix it, whatever."
He was saying, if we
He goes,
mess up your house, if we nick something, here's a form, we'll pay you for that.
"Yeah,
Essentially was what he was saying.
doesn't matter, it's over.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter, it's over." And then the defense came in and said, "Well, did you record this?" And he goes, "No, we were in the back of the car. Like, I was just sitting there chatting with him as this was all going on, try to keep him calm because we're searching his house." And they go, "Well, don't you have one of these?" And held up his cell phone. He goes, "Yes, I do." "Well, you didn't think to press record?" He goes, "No, I didn't think the guy was going to say something like that. We're in the back of the car. I'm not doing a formal interview. It was just something that he came out and said more than once, and it was really odd, as anybody would expect it to be." So that was kind of the interlude into the Holman interview.
I just know with Holman, he went in there with a different, obviously, tone. And he was saying, this is what we found the bullet. So this is what I have in my notes. And again, I can barely read them. It said, Holman shows round of unspent bullet. And he's Richard Allen. "It's not my round. You were on the bridge," Holman says. "What happened that day?" Holman says. "I can't tell you what happened that day," Richard Allen. Holman says, "The truth will set you free."
Yes, he
Oh,
did.
sorry, I don't know. It just made me laugh. Holman said, "If you don't tell me, you're going down for this." Now, this was a little bit more into the conversation. And Richard
Mhm.
Allen said, "Do you know what you've done to me?" And then he brings Kathy in. So this was strategic in terms of bringing Kathy in. And when Kathy was in, I could hardly understand her. She was crying and it
Yeah.
was muffled. And she said, "You didn't tell me you were on the bridge that day." Because I think he told her he was on the trail. So I don't want to be the fall guy. And they were saying, look, they handled it so well. I'll just
Yeah.
read through my notes and then I could digress on exactly what I'm reading. But okay, so Holman says, "If you were in my seat, what would you do?" And this stood out to me. Richard Allen says, and I'm quoting here, "There is no way around from my gun is found near the bridge." But he was selective. He didn't want to say crime scene, but he said near the girls. And this second interview with Holman, interview/interrogation, was very different than the first. He was guarded. He was not budging. He went in there with a plan, in my opinion. And he said this: "If that was next to a murder site, that did not come from my gun. I don't want to be connected to this case. It's been 7-8 years." And Jerry Holman says, "They saw you on the platform." And he said, "I never contacted Abby and Libby, or I never came in contact with Abby and
Yeah, I
Libby.
never talked to them.
I never talked to Abby and Libby. I never even met them."
Yeah.
Kind of saying, I think this was Teddy and, oh, they have the recording and I'm screwed now.
He did a good job as far as keeping his story straight in this interview, definitely. I mean, in the very beginning, I thought Holman was just as good at keeping it calm as they were in that first interview. I really didn't see him get too
No, I didn't either.
angry until the very end. But even in the beginning with a round, he's trying to explain to him, "We got this back from the lab. This round matches your gun. There's no way possible. There's no way that a round from my gun ended up in between two dead girls. There's no way." And he starts trying to ask him more questions. You have to talk about this. At this point, we know what's going on. If you don't say anything, I can't help you. There's nothing
Yeah.
I can do for you.
And I wrote down here, I said, Tara and Amanda were watching intently, like leaning in, and the jury was watching intently. And then Jerry Holman steps out of the room, of the interrogation interview room. And then he comes back in. He said, "The ball's in your court."
Yep.
And Richard Allen said, "Well, you just took my DNA," because they did a swab.
Yeah, he's like, "You're not going to find anything from me at that crime scene." So he already knew.
Yeah.
That's interesting right off the bat. Granted, if you're not the person that did it, your DNA wouldn't be there, but it is an interesting statement to say, like, "Oh, you're not going to find anything from me there."
And
Well,
Holman says, "I'm talking about a bullet. The girls have a video of you. The experts are saying that bullet came from your gun." And he said, "I wasn't around anyone that day. You're trying to trick me." So Richard Allen says that.
Then Holman starts turning it on him. He goes, well, a round from my gun wasn't found at the crime scene. He goes, neither was mine. Oh, well, you know, my face isn't on video and my voice. He goes, neither is mine. So he tried to change the questioning a little bit to try to trip him up, which again, I thought he did a good job at sticking to his story, but you could see the way that he kept coming in with the same response. And obviously, if you're innocent, you're just going to keep saying, oh, it couldn't have been me. But he's giving him proof. Like, you don't get an identification that this round came from your gun if it's not your round.
You know what else, Teddy, that I'm realizing as I'm reading the notes? He knew what he said. Richard Allen is a smart guy. He knew that he said, it doesn't matter, it's over during the search on the 13th. Now
Yeah.
he's trying to undo that because in my notes, he says this to Holman: I do care what people think. I guess, how am I supposed to act like this didn't happen? It doesn't go away. Trying to say, this is what you did to me. So Holman said, look, if there's other people involved, let us know. Tell us, we'll help you. And he said, I want to meet the guy, Richard Allen, I'm paraphrasing. He said, where's the guy that's saying I helped him? If you got someone that said I helped him, he's crazy, Richard Allen. And he said, I don't need your help, because Holman's saying I'll help you. Oh, and this was key. He said, nothing you have is going to show me near the murder of those little girls. Again, I think nothing you have is going to show me near the murder of those girls, which said to me, 2022, almost 6 years, this guy's gotten away with this. He's like, you got nothing.
Two of the other things I want to bring up, because they're pretty important to me. And one of them was actually the defense filing, where they actually put some quotes from that interview.
Yeah.
And Holman's trying to get him to see, like, you know, I'm on your side. And he goes, I don't think you're a bad guy. I mean, I think you're a nice person. And he goes, well, what kind of nice person murders two little girls? It's like, you. What do you mean? Everything that they have now that they have somebody to just kind of slide them into place, everything else points to you. Why would you even say that?
Yeah.
But he did, because he's trying to save face.
Yeah. And Holman turns, he says, quote, your wife told us you have anger issues. And then, did your wife encourage you to come forward when you did? So he's poking him. He's saying the right things. And he says, I did not murder those little girls. He kept denying it. I don't want to be involved in this thing. It did not come from my gun. I've got nothing to say.
I was surprised at this, because he came back in and that's when he really started yelling. And Kathy was right next to Richard the whole time.
It was by design. He did it by design.
Oh,
It says, the evidence tells me you did it. He screamed. I understand what you're saying. And then that Kathy leaves. And then he said, you want to F with me? Then leave my effing wife out of this. So then they get into
Matter of fact, leave me out of this.
Is that what he said?
Yeah.
This is Holman. Did you effing see the dead girls in the woods?
He had the pictures right there on the table.
Oh
And
my
he goes,
God.
you're guilty and I'm going to prove it.
Did he
You're
have the
guilty of something
pictures?
and I'm going to prove it. Yeah, he had the pictures right there.
The funniest part was, this is what I wrote. It goes, then arrest me. And he goes, gladly. And he puts his arm around his back and he goes, and you're going to pay for those waters. They're not free.
He had a couple zingers in there.
Bottled waters. He's like, and you're going to pay for the waters. I'm like,
Yeah.
I thought that Holman was a genius because he knew, okay, this guy's not budging and he's not cooperating and he's not being friendly. And he's like, I'm going to bring the wife in. And then he comes in when the wife's in. I thought all those moves were strategic. And that's when he knew, like, I'm going to get this guy mad. He's like, your wife says you have anger issues. You know,
The truth will set you free.
Can I just say the overriding theme is he cares what people think. We just heard about that time and time again throughout the trial, that he did care what people think. He was bothered when he was younger about what people would think. It ate away at him.
well, clearly we have much more to talk about because all of our batteries are dying, but that's how much we could talk about this together. We have much more testimony to get to. So
Oh,
Yeah.
see you guys soon.
Bye.
okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.